Well, welcome Year 10 to Lesson 17 of our Flipped Classroom tutorials. Alright, today's lesson we are going to look at what is called inequalities. So, what is an inequality? Well, we know it's got something to do with equations, but unlike an equation, inequalities do not have an equal sign. Instead, inequalities have the greater than or less than symbols. So let's go through these symbols again. A simple arrow to the right means greater than. An arrow to the left means less than. And you would have looked at different ways of remembering this. I always remember the less than sign because it looks like a sideways L. Now underneath that we have an arrow to the right with a line underneath it. That means greater than or equal to. And similarly, if we have an arrow to the left with a line underneath it, it means less than or equal to. So, when you see an algebraic sentence or a numerical sentence such as 3, then with an arrow to the right, then 0, this means that 3 is greater than 0. Or when we see a 4 with an arrow to the left, then 10, this would mean that 4 is less than 10. So an inequality can look like this. X squared plus 3x plus 2 is greater than or equal to 0. Just remember, we don't use the equal signs, we're now using inequality signs, the greater than or less than. Alright, so let's start simple. Let's look at this inequality. X plus 6 is greater than 4. Simply solve this the same way you would any equation. If we started with x plus 6 is greater than 4, we want to move the 6 to the other side, or simply get rid of it. To do so, minus 6 from both sides. If we did this, you would be left with x by itself on the left-hand side, and minus 2 on the right-hand side. And the inequality sign wouldn't change. So our final solution would be x is greater than minus 2. So you can see from this solution that x doesn't have one simple answer or value. X isn't equal to minus 2. X can be many different numbers. Really, any number that is greater than minus 2. So if you look at the bottom of the screen, if x is any value greater than minus 2, then x could be minus 1, or 0, or 1, or 12, or 124, or any number greater than minus 2. So generally, inequalities have many solutions. Now the big rule to solving inequalities. Firstly, solve any inequality the same way you would an equation, by moving numbers or terms to either side. We've done this before. But if you ever have to times or divide both sides by a negative number, then you must change the direction of the inequality symbol. Now let's have a look and see what this looks like. Let's look at this inequality. Minus 2x plus 7 is greater than or equal to 3. Solve this in a normal way. Let's move 7 to the other side by minusing 7 from both sides. If we did so, we'd be left with minus 2x is now greater than or equal to minus 4. Now, this is where the rule comes into play. We want to get rid of the minus 2, and to do so we know we need to divide both sides by minus 2. If you do this, if you ever times or divide both sides by a negative number, the inequality symbol will change direction. So, I divided both sides by minus 2, and I'm left on the left-hand side with just x by itself, and on the right-hand side I'm left with 2, but note that the inequality sign has changed to be in the opposite direction. But sadly, you're not done yet. Alright, well, when we solve an equality, you've got to show an algebraic solution, like we just did, and a graphed solution. So a graph solution simply means to present your algebraic solution on a number line. So what does this look like? So if we got a solution for any inequality that was x is greater than 2, this is just an example. What we would need to also do is to draw a number line. Secondly, mark in whatever your answer is on that number line. So you can see I've marked in the number 2 because that was my solution. Now, we know that all values of x must be greater than 2. So in bold, shade in the direction that the values are true. So if all answers are greater than 2, in bold, we would draw another arrow on top to show that all of my answers are greater than 2. So we'll move to the right-hand side. Some more examples of this. If x is greater than 5, we would mark in 5 on the number line with a round dot, and we would then in bold draw all our solutions that would go to the right because x is greater than 5. Let's say x is less than 5. Again, we'd mark in 5 on a number line, and in bold we would now have to mark all solutions for x that are less than 5. So it would go in the left direction. Now look at this next one carefully. If we got a solution that x is greater than or equal to 5, we would mark in 5, but we would need to mark in 5 with a solid dot. Also, we've marked in our bold line to show that x is greater than or equal to 5, so the bold line would go to the right. So just remember that if your inequality sign is either a greater than or equal to or a less than or equal to, then the dot that you make on the number line has to be solid. Look at the examples quickly again and just note that difference. Alright, so let's just quickly lastly do a full example of what this would look like and what your working out would need to look like to answer this question. Example, minus 2x plus 7 is greater than or equal to 3. Firstly, let's minus 7 from both sides. If we do so, on the left hand side we're left with minus 2x, on the right hand side we're left with minus 4, and the symbol hasn't changed. We've still got greater than or equal to. Now, we want to get rid of the minus 2, so divide both sides by minus 2, and note once again that if we divide or times any of the sides by a negative number, the symbol's going to change direction. On the left hand side we're left with x, on the right hand side we're left with 2, but the inequality symbol has changed direction. And our final solution, or our final algebraic solution, would be x is less than or equal to 2. Now you must also do a graph solution. So draw your number line. Mark in your solution, which is 2, and note that I have actually marked in a solid dot because I had a less than or equal to symbol, not just a less than symbol. Now, with a nice bold line, mark in all the solutions graphically that are less than 2. So that would be all solutions that move to the left. Once again, just quickly always note that the solid dot has been used because we had a less than or equal to symbol. Alright, well, next lesson we're going to look at simultaneous equations. In the next 2 lessons though, when I have you in class, we're going to do huge amounts of examples of inequalities to prepare you for your assessment coming up. Alright, Year 10, have a nice afternoon and I will see you this week.